Hi everyone, Justine Leslie here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I help sensitive, awakened, and empathic souls intuitively navigate this crazy world. And today's video is actually going to dive into a 4-part series about intuitive and psychic gifts called Clairs. You guys have probably heard that before. There are 4 main clairs, and basically what clairs are, to break it down, is extrasensory perception on different senses. So the ones that we will be talking about in these series are clairsentience, which is clear feeling, claircognizant, which is clear knowing, clairvoyance, which tends to be the more popular one, clear seeing, and then clairaudient, which is clear hearing. And that is the least popular one, right? So you probably have heard of clairvoyance. That's the one that's kind of used a little bit more mainstream. But today's video is actually going to be about clairsentient. I'm starting with this one because this is the one that I'm dominant in. So I do know a lot about it. And you can be dominant in, I believe everybody has the 4 dominant ones, right? Those 4 that I just mentioned. But I also believe that we tend to be strongest out of the 4, maybe in 1 or 2. Mine is clairsentience, and then claircognizant is my second one, right? The clear knowing. So basically, I'm going to be going through these different clairs, as we call them, and really kind of explain to you what they are, to how to tell if you're dominant with them. They're all coinciding with a chakra as well, so I'll tell you about that. And then how to strengthen it, basically, because I do not believe that intuitive and psychic gifts are specific to certain people. I do feel like if you resonate more as being empathic or psychic or more intuitive, I definitely feel like it's something that comes to you guys a little bit easier. I know I can resonate with that as well, but it's not something that is separate from everybody else. This idea that these gifts are there's this stigma. I don't even like using the words psychic, to be completely honest with you. I like using intuitive gifts and abilities, because there is this stigma around it, which is absolutely ridiculous, because these are tools that was given to us from source, divine energy, universe, however you want to say it, to navigate this world in the form of clarity and the form of guidance and healing. So it's so important that we use these tools that we're given. And if we don't know what they are, or how to strengthen it, or how to use it for our greatest good, and for our purpose, right? A lot of this stuff is used for our passions and our purposes, and how to make aligned decisions, get into the flow, all this good, intuitive, juicy stuff. But for some reason, it's not that mainstream. So I'd love to end that stigma, and I'd love to tell you about these 4 clairs, and I'm just going to jump right into it. But before I do, you guys know the drill. If you like videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can get notified by any new videos that I post. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And then if there's any comments, questions, concerns, please put them down below. I'd love to hear if you guys feel like you're dominant in clairsentience, or if you have any additional questions or anything along those lines. So as usual, I made notes to make sure that I hit every single point. So let me just jump right into it. And again, guys, this video is on clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and it is the one that I feel I am most dominant in. Okay, so first things first, like I said, what is it? Clairsentience is clear feeling. So this means that you can really feel extra feeling, all the feels, right? And there's actually 2 ways that you can pick up this information and communicate. One is internal, and the other is external, right? So what do I mean by that? I actually mean that internal means that you actually feel the emotions of others, right? Is this sounding familiar, empaths, right? I'll get into that in a minute. But you really are feeling other people's emotions, right? So if you guys have seen me read cards, you can see that when I'm reading for somebody, I can kind of pick up what they're feeling, and then I'm asking them if they resonate with that. Anxiety, depression, joyful. I can pick out the feelings because they're actually not coming from me. I'm actually picking them up, right? But I'm picking them up internally, right? And then we have externally different sensations. So this is more about what's on the outside. Like, for example, you walk into a room and you can feel the different feelings in the energy of the room, right? So that is an example of being external. So it could be 2 things. It could be internal and it could be external, right? Emotions or sensations, right? Okay, so what is it? Like I said, you take on the emotions of others, right? Sounds a lot like being an empath, right? And a lot of people that are dominant in clairsentience, they resonate more with the word empathic, right? They don't necessarily resonate with intuitive. They don't necessarily resonate with psychic, medium, that kind of thing. They really do resonate as empath because what an empath really is, if at the end of the day, my definition is more like you're a sponge, right? So you're absorbing energy externally, right? But you're also picking up the emotions of others, right? So those are actually the two things I just mentioned, being clairsentient, right? Okay, and then there is a chakra associated to it. So what do I mean by that? We have 7 major chakras, from the root of our spine, right, which is the root chakra, all the way to the top, which is our crown chakra. And the top 4 are our spiritual divine chakras. The lower 3 are more human selves, right? So the top 4 are the ones that are associated to these different intuitive abilities. And if you haven't guessed already, clairsentient is actually linked to our heart, right? So makes a lot of sense. We feel, right, in our hearts. So this is kind of where we're going to feel it, right? We feel a lot of emotions right here, okay? Cool. Okay, so how do you know if you're dominant? I mean, if this is already resonating with you, if you feel like you resonate mostly with the word empath, then you're probably clairsentient. But here's a list of other things that you may that could tell that you're dominant in it, right? So the first one is you have high emotional intelligence. You're really good at emotions, right? And why is that? Because we actually have to interpret. We're good at feeling them, right? We're good at interpreting and acknowledging them and feeling them and identifying them, right? We're actually really, really good at that. And why? It's because we feel a lot, right? So we have a lot of experience. It's something that we actually have to deal with, right? We have to do emotional regulation for just being an empath, right? But we are highly emotionally intelligent. So we can really pinpoint emotions very well, right? Okay, so the second one is, like I said, you identify more as an empath than a psychic or a medium or anything like that. I already mentioned this one as well. You walk into a room and you can feel energy, right? That's actually more of the sensory, right? You walk into a room, you know people have fought. Maybe somebody found out really good news in the room that you walked into, that kind of thing. So you can pick up the energy of that room. You size up people immediately. You're a good reader. Again, I keep using me as an example, but I read cards, right? And I read cards very well, and I read people very well, right? And that's what I make a living doing, because I'm very, very good at picking up how people are feeling. I'm very intuitive with it and all that good stuff. Gut feelings, guys. Gut feelings are usually, obviously our intuition, right, is our gut feeling, but also at the same time, our emotions can tell us what we need to know. So obviously it's very intuitive in that way, that it's connected. But it's usually, we can really feel the emotions connected to that as well, very easily. Here's another one. You feel someone looking at you, right? So you can feel it, right? Feel somebody looking at you. That is definitely an extrasensory perception. You don't know why. You turn around and the person is looking at you, right? You kind of knew right off the bat, right? You can feel their eyes on you, right? Okay, and then how to strengthen it. So these are kind of going to be overlapped because they're general in the way that doing most of these will definitely help with really making sure that our intuitive abilities can come through and our intuitive gifts can come through. But let me go into them and I'll explain. It'll make more sense. So the first one, I put meditation, right? I'm such a huge proponent and advocate of meditation. Why? It does so much for us, including strengthening our clairsentience and all of our gifts in general, right? Why is this? It's because when we can get quiet and we can get still, we can kind of move the ego out of the way, and then our natural soul gifts can come through, right? So we make a channel almost. We're making a channel for things to come through, right? We really can't when our ego is going 24/7, right? So it really helps us in that way. Also clears the mind, stills the mind, for that stuff to come through, for sure. Okay, so this one I already mentioned. Feel your feelings. It is so important that we get so emotionally illiterate literate. Is that, I think that's what I'm going for. But we need to really make sure that, again, if you are dominant, you probably have a high EQ, emotional intelligence already, but it's so important that we really are able to feel our feelings, because if we try to suppress this, we're basically suppressing our gift, and that is not good, right? Don't let me get into a whole tangent about what happens when we suppress our feelings. We can make ourselves physically ill. It's not emotionally ill. We don't want to do that, right? We want to feel it to the extent, no matter how painful it actually is. We want to do that though, right? Because then we become very well versed emotionally, and then we can really master our gift for sure. And this last one here, again, this one could, all of these really can, for the most part, again, really strengthen our gifts. But I wrote no alcohol and clean eating. So I'm 2.5 years sober at this point, and I chose to do that. And I'm also a pescatarian. I was a vegetarian at one point, but I started getting sick. But I do those two things because I try to keep my body clear. Because again, when it comes to these gifts, your body is the channel to receive. And that includes your mind. That's what I was talking about with meditation, is just really making sure the ego can get out of the way so we can be able to channel. But our bodies are really the vessel. So keeping it clean. If you're drunk all the time or hungover, it's going to be really hard to feel what you're feeling to the extent that you really need to be able to read it correctly or interpret it correctly at the end of the day. And also about meat, red meat is not necessarily great. I believe you can feel the fear of the animal before it was killed when you ingest it. A lot of people believe that. Some people don't. They say it's a little out there, but in my opinion, I just feel like it clouds you a lot. It really makes you heavy instead of light, and also feeling the fear, like I said, is not always the greatest thing, right? Because it really kind of, what is fear, right? It's ego, right? So it kind of like messes with what's going on. As far as like the channel goes. So if you can keep your body as clean as possible, that would be in the best interest for you to be able to really use your clairsentient for the best of your abilities. So at the end of the day, okay, so those are the 3 that I have. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Clairsentience is in my opinion, the most intense clair. It's the most intense because, again, if you resonate as an empath, you know that you can feel feelings very deeply, and it can be very, very intense. And most of the time, they're not yours. So that's the hardest thing, is to kind of interpret the two. Are these my feelings, or are these somebody else's? It's very hard to decipher that. But again, if you have a clear head, a clear mind, a clear body, you're able to kind of decipher that and master it. So you can be able to make sure that this gift doesn't overtake you, right? This is a gift at the end of the day, right? Not a curse, right? And this is the same thing as being as an empath. It is not a curse as long as we use it in the way that it was intended to use it, right? So it is definitely a blessing and a superpower and a gift, obviously, an intuitive gift for us to be able to receive this information and interpret it in that way. Yeah, and so like I said, it's definitely can be very, very intense, but again, we need to be able to master and manage it for sure. Okay, and so that was it. That was my little crash course. I mean, there's like 1,000 more things that we can kind of say about it, but I want to keep these kind of right to the point, because I do get a lot of questions about what intuitive gifts really are and what psychic gifts really are, and they're not that out there. What I just said was not that out there. It's very, very common. Again, with people that are empaths, I think this would totally resonate with you guys. I'm just really kind of verbalizing exactly what you're experiencing for the most part in your everyday lives. So that actually is your clairsentience coming through for sure. Okay, guys, so I will put out another video next week in the series of the clairs, and hopefully this was helpful for you. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.